I am Michael T. Smith. This is the church of that you're joining today. I'm part of today, and here is your message for the week of April 13, 2025. We're in a series, What About Your Funeral? Considering Our Lives, backing up to what that means for us today. And we've been asking a question last week and this week, what about your story? But we've inserted in that, what about your supernatural story? I have in my notes, what about, and an open bracket, supernatural, what about your open bracket supernatural, close bracket story, and we're really discussing the internal narrative and external narrative that becomes the dominant, that we allow to become the dominant theme of our lives. And a life, if I can say well lived, a living well enjoyed is tied to these narratives, these internal and external narratives, how we see ourselves in the world, the story we tell ourselves, about our place in the world as we move as the star of our own show, the star of our own existence with featured players, walk-in players, behind the scenes background players, shifting throughout the seasons and acts of our life. And the story that we see in ourselves, the story that we tell ourselves is happening internally, and the story that we are releasing externally is essential to that fruitful, that meaningful life and living, and we're talking about that today. And I have a couple of thoughts. They're kind of an A, B, C, and D, if you will, and we began last week, and I will start again this week. I'm probably not going to get very far. I'm going to get into the B part of this, but we'll see. But A, we said last week, when you consider your story, your supernatural story, your legacy, your internal self-concept, your external self-concept, it starts with this, that you are not cursed. Thought A is you are not cursed. Your life is not cursed. And one of the dominant consumptions of weaponized religion, transactional religion, conditional religion, is this narrative that what is going on with us is a result of our compliance, a result of our lack of compliance, a result of our obedience or lack of obedience, a result of our alliance or alignment or lack of alignment. It can also be alliance and lack of alliance. That's something that because I am wrong or have done wrong, this wrong thing is happening. And when you stack enough of those wrong things together, you get out of kind of this sum of the parts estimation of your life. Well, I can see the reason X happened is tied to the fact that I did Y, and now I am living the consequences of Z. But if you stack enough of those together, you're no longer pointing to X or to A or to L or to you're now saying, I think the narrative of my life is that I am cursed. The narrative of my life is that my life is cursed, and that is simply a byproduct of false religion. I think about people have a fear of hell. It's irrational, but I think very useful. And so much of religion, as we know, so much of Christianity, as some of you who are Christians know, you come into Christianity through the door of hell. You don't come into it through the person of Christ. You come into it by the default, the start, right? Page 1, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Where you begin with the idea of is that there is eternal punishment waiting for all people. And that idea now dictates every step in every religious concept or every vacuum that gets, the vacuum of that first thought determines what fills in your religious concept. And it's interesting because people who live and say, okay, well, I want to make sure that when I die, I go to the right place. It's a very irrational response to say, and the way I can be assured that I'm going to the right place is I've chosen to worship the correct God in the correct manner and perform the required things according to the correct prescription, and therefore becoming part of the correct team in the correct communal or covenantal belonging, and therefore hell is not my fear. And it's a very interesting formulation, the way we paint ourselves into this corner, because the people that are advertising the solution are the ones that are also promoting the problem. In other words, when I'm advertising the solution, what are you going to do about the hell that awaits you? Here's the answer to that. You have to be very suspect if the people offering you that answer are the same people that that suggested to you that's the problem, or the same institution, or the same worldview. And so we get to this place where we conclude, man, my life must be cursed. I must be under a curse. I've got to trace back to find out where I did the wrong that became the disobedience, that became the noncompliance, that became the unalignment, the misalignment. And if I can trace that back, then I can rectify, I can remedy that, I can make the appropriate penance or sacrifice or ameliorate that somehow, and offset that somehow. Reconcile all those things together. That's the word the Christian scriptures use, a reckoning, an accounting term, right? How can I put this together and see if I can write this account, set it aright? I've obviously overdrawn my grace or my spiritual deposits or whatever it is. And again, that's the idea. I am under a curse. But then it's deeper than that, because when we find I can't fix it, or no matter what I do to fix it makes it worse, or I can't go upstream far enough to find out where it went off, it's no longer my life is under a curse, it's I am cursed. And I'm grateful that there are many of you, hopefully, looking at me, listening to me in this church service today, saying, all right, preacher, move on. That's not me. Well, listen, consider yourself blessed, sir. Consider yourself blessed, ma'am. But there are people who are in deep seasons, I shared with you last week, where I am, dark seasons of saying, okay, maybe that's what's going on with me. But there are other people who, what is it? Ever since birth, I've been cursed with this curse to just curse, right? I would say that they don't look at the situation. They don't look at, the spring of the big 2-5, right? That is not what they're looking at. They're looking at, I think I was born under a bad sign, right? I was the sixth son of six, not the seventh son. And I was born under a bad sign. And my life ever since, I everywhere I go, I am the monkey's arm that comes down and starts the chaos. I am a curse. And so if you say, well, I don't think that at all. I kind of consider myself God's favorite in the universe, and I thank God for that. And that's a great way to live. It's a dog-eat-dog world. But then there's also people who that the narrative that they are the problem, that they have just been selected for special treatment, not in an Auschwitz context, a Birkenau context, but in a much larger, God has selected me for Job treatment, these type of things. And what those are religious articulations, right, of people whose lives are inexplicably complex. They're touched by a suffering that we cannot imagine. And so we cannot imagine because we understand the nature of God as love. We understand that intuitively, that we have to invent narratives, religious narratives in the Hebrew scriptures, the Christian scriptures, the Vedas, and all across, religion. We have to have a context that explains the why of suffering, because we can't leave it as a mystery. And when we can explain it away, what happens is we lose our proper response to that. So I look at a person and say, well, man, this happened when I was little. My mom was killed when I was this, and my so-and-so this one, and then I had this thing. Then I lost my sibling, and I lost that. Then I got this, my first husband, my second husband, my daughter. And you say, my God, look at this life. And they say, I know, look at this life. What is wrong with me? I must just be cursed. And so we come up with a narrative. Well, maybe God is testing you, or maybe there's a higher reason, or maybe there's a spiritual thing that's going on here, because we can either say, yeah, God just must not like you, which doesn't really jibe too well, or there must be a higher mystery to it. And so this theme now, this narrative, we're talking about our story, becomes our internal story. It also becomes the way people see us, the way we look at certain people. I don't know what's going on with that over there, but that guy, that lady, that family, just something must be going on with them. I just pray for them. Why? Because somehow, somewhere, they upset some God, something, some buckle in the universe, or we just say, I can't explain it. It's just their lives are so unlucky. Well, when we can admit the randomness of it, when we can admit the randomness of good fortune, the randomness of misfortune, now all of a sudden we are poised to respond to it compassionately. Think of again, why did this, think of the Christian scriptures. Master, why was he born blind? Did he do something wrong to get this curse, or did his parents do something wrong? Is it something that God is punishing generations situations later, or is it something the man brought on himself? And he says, you're looking at it all wrong. He says, this is a place not to try to trace back the wrongdoing that created this undesirable state. Now's the time to walk in the manifestation of power, the manifestation of love. And of course, you know Jesus of Nazareth, a man of such great compassion and radical purity of love that it was said that it took on miraculous dimension. And he went around and healing and delivering people out of these things, not tracing back where did it come from, but meeting them right where they are and bringing the miracle and the compassion. And so that's where we are. You're not under a curse. I am not under a curse. We are not under a curse. Your neighbor is not under a curse. Your life is not cursed. But instead, we are all candidates and conduits for this miraculous, inexplicable love that, despite it all, drives us to bring the divine into the natural world. It is wise to consider the cause of our misfortune. Let's move forward today. It is wise to consider the cause of our misfortune. Am I drinking too much? Am I eating too much? Am I sleeping too much? Am I working too hard? Should I be nicer when I'm being cold when I should be nice? I'm being distant when I should be close. It's wise to consider the cause of our misfortune, but our inquiries must cease once we have sounded the limits of human frailty. Our inquiries must cease once we've sounded the limits of human frailty. Once we have set out into the world, we've plumbed it, right? We've echoed, we've sonared, we've said, okay, where is it? What is going on here? What is going on here is that you are human. What is going on here is that you are frail. What is going on here is that you will make mistakes. What is going on here is that we are having a human experience. And if you look at your life and say, boy, maybe I ate too much. Maybe I drank too much. Maybe I didn't eat enough. Maybe I didn't work out enough. Maybe I worked out too hard. Maybe I didn't save enough. Maybe I saved too much. Maybe and somebody said, well, that's not true. It is true. Some people, we know people who, get into their 50s, 60s, 70s, didn't save nearly enough. And boy, when it's time to retire and go live life, they're just barely subsided. They can't, one guy said, they can't afford to get out of town, out of sight, let alone get out of town. And then there are other people who said, no, we were real responsible. We set aside everything and we saved everything. And we had a plan and we both knew the plan and we worked the extra 5 years and we got to that 73 and then we retired and boom, sickness came and all the living they were going to do, tragedy strikes, and now that living does not get done. And so there's always a thing to blame. There's always a thing to say, here's what I woulda, coulda, shoulda done, these ideas. And so it is wise to say, okay, if something is going on that's causing my problem, let me seek wisdom. Let me inquire of wisdom. Give wisdom. I love James 1, 5-8 in the Christian scriptures. The only prayer that will never be withheld is if you ask for wisdom, that God gives liberally and he doesn't find fault and it just pours out wisdom. And I receive that wisdom by faith. God, if there's something going on here that I'm going uphill, some Sisyphusian type thing that I'm stuck in, and doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Show me that. Shine light on that. Reveal that. That is wise. But once you get to the edge of here's what's going on, you're going to find that the outer edge of that is just a human frailty, and where you are able to amend that human frailty, then we should exercise our dominion and amend it. But we should not walk in the guilt and shame to say, well, I guess that's just a mark upon my life. The truth of humanity is, again in your notes, we are accident prone. We are error prone. We are of limited sight and foresight. I'll say it again. Well, it is wise to consider the cause of our misfortune, but that inquiry must cease once we plumb the depths or sound the limits of human frailty. And once we get to the outer edge of, okay, I'm human and this is the truth of the human experience, that we are accident prone, we are error prone, we are of limited sight, we are of limited anticipatory sight. We can only see so far around the corner, reading the arc of the horizon. There's only so far that we can see. We are accident prone, we are error prone, we are of limited sight and foresight. Here's a big truth for you. You are of limited hindsight too. We have this myth that hindsight is 20/20. It is never as clear as that, despite our claims to the contrary. Our foresight is limited, our hindsight is limited. Why is our hindsight limited? No, I came out of it. I know what I know now. Well, that's true, but hindsight is so often jaded by a woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I see what went wrong, Pastor, if I would have done this and I could have done this, but we often don't factor in the reality that those things only occurred to us in the after. jaded by a woulda, coulda, shoulda, and as we look in hindsight, we see what we could have done, what we would have done, what we should have done, but we fail to factor in that there is some knowledge present now that was not present in that moment. Our hindsight jaded by the woulda, the coulda, the shoulda, but we're neglecting to admit or to recognize or to say that there's some knowledge in our now that wasn't there in our then. Or there's a clarity of focus that we didn't have then, a clarity of awareness that we didn't have then, a clarity of consequence that we didn't have then. A clarity of focus, a clarity of awareness, a clarity of consequence, that there's some knowledge in this moment that was not present to us then. There's a clarity of focus, a clarity of awareness, a clarity of consequence in the now that we did not have then. And so, well, my hindsight is 20/20. Well, but even our hindsight is jaded. Why? Because even though we may have a knowledge in the now that we didn't have in the then, a clarity of focus, awareness, and consequence in the now that we didn't have in the then, we're estimating that even now from a position of limited sight. I've often been of the conviction that people don't do what they believe, what they know, they do what they believe. You can know that the cigarette will kill you. You can know that the alcohol will kill you. But when we are consuming, what we're actually doing is stating our belief in that, in the defiance of the odds. That what we don't do what we know, we do what we believe. And we do this out of a place of narrative. And then we go out and we find our examples, we say, well, you can't eat this, you can't do this, you can't drink this, you can't smoke this, and then there is George Burns. Oh, God. There is George Burns, five martinis a day, rare steaks every day, cigars as big as your arm. The guy lives to 105 years old. And we say, that's true, I got relatives, man, who drink and cuss. Well, it's not about that, it's just about being happy. I got relatives who drink and smoke and cuss, and the most miserable people in the world, and man, you can't kill them. They're still alive and as ornery as ever. I'm telling you, we look in hindsight, we think we're evaluating, but even our evaluation in the present of the past is limited by our sight and our limited foresight. So when you consider, am I under a curse? It's wise to consider the cause of our misfortune, but also we must move beyond our consideration of human frailty. And now we come into the fraught matter of what? That life and survival in this world is difficult. Life and survival in this world is difficult. So as you look at your misfortune, first thing is, okay, is there a cause to my misfortune? Something I can remedy? Yes, I can. My foresight was limited. I'm error prone. I'm accident prone. I'm of limited sight, but now I can see different. I can see clearly now. The light has come. But guess what? Even your jaded woulda, coulda, shoulda, partial hindsight is insufficient to fully prepare you for what? Life and survival in this hostile world. The fraught matter of living in this earth, living in this dimension, living in this plane, living in this material world. There is no political solution, right? We are here in this fraught matter of life and survival in this world. And here's the thing. Life and survival is difficult. Walk to an old graveyard. Walk to a new graveyard. Walk through and look at the headstones. Look at the number of headstones that are days and weeks and months, years, just a couple of years, because just being born, right? Being a brand-born baby, a mother bringing forth a brand-born baby, very precarious. Precarious still, depending on who you are and where you are and what resources are available and how much trust in the medical system is engineered and how much access is engineered. Maybe it's engineered blindly because that's the way injustice falls, or maybe it's engineered intentionally, or maybe it's on autopilot that the proactive inequity doesn't have to be touched now because it's just in a perpetual motion. By whatever means, bringing life into this planet, being alive on this planet, making it through gestation, making it through delivery, both mother and child, surviving in the earth, right? I mean, these are complicated things. I'm under a curse. Well, maybe look at the causes. Is there a place you can see to remedy or rectify? Maybe. Or you can start with, it is difficult to live and survive on this planet. We're in a hostile environment. Is that the default thing? I don't know. Maybe we're in a beautiful environment. I choose to believe, maybe because I'm a glass half full person or whatever it is, I choose to believe that life is beautiful and that the world is beautiful. And oh yeah, as a footnote and as an aside, there's some ugly thing. As I look back over my life, as I look back, having pastored now in some form or another for, my God, coming up on 4 decades, 15, so yeah, 37 years here, been in some form of ministry and youth pastoring, adult pastoring, and, pastor pastoring and associate pastoring and marriage pastoring. I will tell you this, that the truth of life is that it is largely beautiful. That if you paint the picture of your life, it's a lot of sunny days and there's cloudy corners. Thank God for it, right? As we gather for a funeral on a Saturday, and boy, we're really having a difficult time on that Saturday. Well, there's everybody else out there at soccer games and lacrosse and barbecue and carnitas on the grill, and everybody's having a good time. But guess what? It'll switch. You're sitting there on that Saturday at that funeral, and life is terrible. But the other 51 Saturdays of this year, and the other 52 Saturdays of the years before that, you were out there. La cerveza más fina, right? You were out there enjoying a great time. And then we're all touched by this loss. But life is beautiful. And maybe I say that the planet is not hostile. Maybe that there are leaves and there's plants and there's life and there's sunlight and there's so many things trying to give us life. But that does not remove the reality. There are so many things in our world that are literally trying to consume us, literally trying to feed on us, from the amoeba and the bacteria and some bacteria helping us out and some bacteria trying to hollow us out. And we're in this planet and we're in this place. And there are trees that are out there to give us shade, and then there are trees that are out there that fall on top of the car. I mean, this is a difficult planet. Well, my life is under a curse. I don't think so. My life is under a curse. Maybe you threw up, a thing, and I think I told the story about the guys who threw the darts up and it came down in their hand. I mean, maybe stop breaking the law, a-hole. You don't want my expert legal advice? Maybe that's it. But when you say, yeah, why do I break the law? Because you're human, because you're frail, because you got a story, and where you can stop, and where you can take dominion, take dominion. That's your responsibility, to take the dominion you can take. But then beyond that, maybe it's just hard out here to be alive. Not only are we living in a world where there are things trying to consume us, we live in a world where there are people that are trying to do harm. Though I don't believe this is the natural disposition of a human. I no more believe that it's a natural disposition of a human than it is of a dog. But dogs can be fierce. Maybe dogs are dogs and dogs are wild and dogs bite and dogs do all those things. Dogs are also domesticated, and maybe humans are just like chimps and we're aggressive and we want to destroy and we got teeth and we'd kill the whole other village. Certainly like that. I do believe that, like C.S. Lewis said, when somebody says that so-and-so is acting like an animal, what they really mean is they're acting in a way that no animal would ever behave. I don't believe it's a natural disposition of humans to harm other humans, which is why the soul depletion of war and violence is so long-lasting. It's why you can come home from the jungle. It's why you can come home from the desert, but you can't leave it behind. I was talking to my dad this past week of a good friend, passed away in his late 80s, just a wonderful man, a wonderful humanitarian, a wonderful just regal statesman and well-respected elder in the city. But he wept as his death approached, deathly afraid that he was going to burn in hell forever for what he had done during World War II. That there was still something, that he had done awful things and at war had brought terrible things out of him. And there is that thin veneer of civility, right? That thin veneer. It doesn't take human beings too much to be pushed into Lord of the Flies, into absolute raging chaos. But I would say, so you're trying to make an argument that humanity is noble, and it's not. But look at how we've moved towards nobility, and the fact that we are afraid of that veneer, that we are sensitive in that veneer, that we are aware when things snap in us that is against that. I mean, just talk to people who lost themselves in the jungle, who lost themselves in the desert, and who have recovered themselves. And they're not saying, wow, I found out how awful I really was. They're finding out how quickly the engineered dysfunction of the war pigs can turn human beings into something quite contrary to the essence of who they are. And in this place, that is beautiful yet hostile, in this place of people that are wired for compassion and dignity, but have a thin veneer of civility, that the mob can and the threats can quickly move us from a large self to a small self with great capacity. Humans a great limitation on their ability to heal, but seeming unlimited capacity on their ability to harm. We live in this place, and we are. Humankind has rightly expended a great deal of energy to take dominion over the places and people of the world, to quell and quench and calm those forces that would try to consume us, to push back on the planet, to push back on those forces of intrusion. But the truth is, in this world, we can only do so much. Why? Because we build the levees, but the levees break. The storm comes, it exceeds, the storm exceeds, the levees break, teaching us to weep and moan. And then we grieve, and then we blame, and then we hopefully are live to live again another day. Why? Hopefully living to live again, because life itself is the gift. And life is the gift until the day that it is not the gift. But in that living, in that life that is a gift, the storm exceeds, the levee breaks, it teaches us to weep and moan. We grieve, we blame. It was because of this, it was because of this. Again, the false hindsight. Now look what we did. But keep in mind that the hindsight we have after the levee breaks is no more insightful than the hindsight we had when what caused us to build the levee in the future. That we got out of it and said, okay, wow, we see what went wrong. We're going to build the levee so that doesn't happen again. But we couldn't see the megastorm. But we aim to build back better, to move, to adjust, to adopt, to adapt, to be wiser. And season over season we are. Our lives, season over season, we've gotten wiser, we've gotten a little smarter. We know not to do this, not to do a little too much of that. When we overdid it, when we underdid it, we understand those things as time goes by. As humanity, generation over generation, I mean, my God, look at how far we've come. We are doing right to push back. There's a divine in us that craves and clings to life. And we've preserved life for ourselves. We've preserved life for other people. We've preserved life for us as a society and as a hive, and we are pushing back against those things. We're trying to figure out how to make the world, and it is largely less violent than it's ever been. Less war, less killing, less death, less tragedy than we've ever had, despite what your social media will feed to you. If you take it season over season, decade over decade, century over century, my God, a lot less babies in the grave, a lot less mamas in the grave with the babies in the grave. It's a complex thing, but we're making progress. But have we ever gotten to the place where we are larger than the vulnerability in this planet? No, we have not. But season over season, we're doing what is at the core of our religious narrative. We are taking dominion over the world, the environment that we have. And we do that on the micro, and we do it on the macro. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying today. What are you trying to say? That you're not under a curse, you're just living life. That where you can find the cause, you make the adjustment. But you also have to factor in that sometimes human-prone, error-prone, mistake-prone, limited sight, limited foresight people are living in a dangerous, hostile place where there are things trying to give you life and things trying to kill you simultaneously, and you as an individual and we as a collective humanity, right, of one organism, the we, right, of the one organism that we all are, living connected to the organism here. We're pushing and establishing, taking territory. Maybe it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, but over time and over century and over generations, my God, we're making some progress. And then in the middle of this, is there a cause, that I can fix? And then also, what about just the complexity of the fraught matter of life and survival? We add into this wonderful thing of coincidence. Maybe you're not under a curse. Maybe it's just how the chips fell. My son was in his final high school performance just this past week. Did wonderful. Had the starring role in his show, and just he did so great, and we're so proud. And he's always been a little actor and a ham on stage, and he's always done. I mean, you just give him a microphone or put him on stage and give him an audience, and he just does his thing, and we're so proud. But there's this great scene where one of his good friends in this cast, she has this incredible monologue of just insanity, and it's just great, and it's fun, and it's silly, and it's irreverent. reverent, and it's this great thing. And in the middle of it, she takes her hat and she tosses it just recklessly off her head, and out of 5 performances, it went left, it went right, it went straight, it went forward. But in one of it, there's a background player playing a xylophone, and when she did it, it landed right on the xylophone with a bloop, and it was perfectly timed. Somebody say, you could try it 1,000 times and not get it again. Sometimes the things just fall the way they fall. My dad was telling me this past week in our weekly conversations, you just kind of taking the TCO, and he metabolizes it. He's working on these transcripts. They're going to be such a blessing to you. But he metabolizes it, and we talk about it, and we stir up further. We basically solve all the problems of the world in our little weekly meetings, but he was telling me about a row of cars at a stop sign, and stop at the stop sign, the 4-way stop, and everybody moves forward, and we stop at the stop sign, the 4-way stop at the stop sign, and we just move forward. And there was a video camera going, and this tree, it was no rain, no storm, no nothing. It just a tree fell, and it fell right on a car. And my God, you think, well, had it fallen one car earlier, it would have fallen on the first. It would have fallen one car later, it would have fallen another. But when it fell into the lady's car, and the branches, the way they came in, they were before, behind her, but just happened to be an inch in front of and an inch behind her head, and she got out and she just looked at it, and the whole car was crushed. And said, my God, it had to fall in such a particular way on that car. It could have fallen on any other car at any other moment. It could have fallen in a different direction, such a particular way to destroy, but it also fell in such a particular way so as to spare life. And that is where we live. Sometimes the tree falls in the only way it could fall so that it didn't get us. Other times the tree falls in the only way it could have fallen so that it did. Sometimes, when financial stuff hits, it hits at the only time that it could have. I carried so much shame pastoring our church, and we started all these churches, and man, the main church was going good, and we were maxed out 2 and 3 services, and man, maybe go to a 3rd service, and the real estate was just sky high. People were high on the net price of real estate, and they were buying stuff and tripling, doubling. People were overpaying, and we didn't know what to do. We said, well, let's just add. And so we added like 5, 6 campuses, and man, it was going, it was great. And then all of a sudden we needed I'm going to say we were bringing in about 400, maybe 480,000. What is that in today's economy? 600,000 a month for our little church, and our expenses were around 300,000 a month, and maybe about 400,000 a month. We said, well, this is good. And so we added some in, and we went, and our little church that was bringing in just that money, within like 12 months, it went down to under 300. We were having almost a $200,000 surplus. It went down to a $100,000 shortfall. My God, I felt so bad. What did I do? How did I get out of alignment? Here it is. I'm under a curse. The thing was blessed. Now it's cursed. I don't understand what's happening. And man, we couldn't get this, we couldn't get that. And then the bills came and the collectors came. We had to push off this. And then they said, you got to let people go. And so we had a staff of about 50. We let 16 people go. We couldn't afford to pay them. And then I realized after we let everybody go, I said, where are they going to find a job? And can't nobody find a job? Hire them all back. And so I think we hired like 11 of them back. We went in order who came on last. If you were the most recent person hired, we can't hire you back. But we went back to the people for years and hired as many people as we could and try to get people placed in jobs and try to get this and that. And then, man, the IRS boys came in and said, you guys aren't paying this and that. I'm like, man, I'm trying to keep food on people's plates. We'll get to you in a minute. And, while you're bailing out the banks and blah, 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 how about you send some money? They never sent any money our way, but Chase and them got a bunch, or whoever, I don't know, Bank of America or Merrill, whatever. They all got a bunch. And all I could do was think, my God, what did I do to go wrong? What did I do to do this? And then I finally woke up one day and said, it happened to the whole world. It happened to the whole world. It's just the way the tree fell. And the tree fell for me at the exact time that we were stepping out into some new thing. At the exact time that we were stepping out. Okay, well, let's go here and let's go here. And man, we were so excited. And it was within months, right? It started first. I started noticing, well, the offering's gone a little strange. That's weird. But my son was being born. I said, that's no problem, man. By the time it got into 2008, it was a wreck. People's homes, people paid $400,000 for a home. It's worth $200,000 now. I mean, you were there. You know how crazy it was. And boy, it just, the shame. And I thought this church was going somewhere, and I thought this thing was doing a thing. And Connie and I weren't able to get paid, and people weren't getting paid, and we were having to pay this person this week and put off that thing to pay this person that week, and kind of God, how we're going to survive, and blah, blah, blah. And just the shame and the shame and the shame and the shame. And then when I got out of it, I was like, oh my God, you mean the whole rest of the world went through that same 2-year period as well? Yeah. Just the way the tree fell. Just the way the tree fell. Well, you should have known. Well, I'm of limited sight and limited foresight. Well, the Spirit should have told you. Well, I prayed and I asked. I said, okay, God, we felt it out and this and that. And this, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Well, you know better now. Well, I know a little better now. If I had it to do over again, I would have done it a little different. But to see around the corner and to know that, it's just one of those things. Sometimes the tree falls in the perfect way. The perfect way that if it fell any other way, it would have crushed you. Or sometimes it falls in the perfect way that every way you try to dodge it, there was a branch there too. And you know what we do as humans? We learn to thank God in it all, even if not for it all. What happened if the tree totally crushes your car? I thank God in it all. What happened if the tree missed your car by 1 inch? I thank God in it all. Well, Pastor, I'm not sure I want to live in the world you describe. Well, I got news for you. It's the world you live in. But yet in the midst of it all, in this midst of this world, right, of this, sometimes our human frailty, we do things wrong, we play things wrong, that we kind of learn maybe a little better, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to know on the next. And sometimes we live in this hostile world, which is trying to give us life and take life simultaneously. And sometimes just the way the chips fall, it falls in a negative, falls for our acceleration, or falls for our, kind of stalling and our breakdown, But in the middle of this, we find in this world that humans still have a feel and a sense of God. We find that there is a love, that God is pulsing at the crust and the core of our existence. Even with our mistake-prone, error-prone, limited sight and foresight, even with our not-so 20/20 hindsight filled with woulda, couldas, and shouldas, jaded by present knowledge that we didn't have, even with the complexity and fraught matter of survival on this planet, even with the reality of coincidence that we just, sometimes it falls our way and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the hat flies off into the stage and sometimes it gets stuck on the lighting truss and sometimes it lands and makes its own sound effect on the xylophone. Even with all that, we still feel and sense love pulsing in human existence at the core and the crust of who we are. We are aware of God, aware of love. We are drawn to love. We are often, even though we're aware of it and drawn to it, surprised by how it visits us with a peace, with a whisper, with a knowing, even in the middle of chaos. And at the very essence of true religion, right, is our compulsion, our drive to channel and embody this love, not to weaponize, not to become factionalized or whatever it is, not to break off into our God and your God and right team and wrong team. That's what false weaponized religion does to us. But in the middle of this, if we can see through the human tainting, to the divine clarity, not only present in this book, but present in Revelations and natural religions and customs, the large big truth in the middle of all the angular small truths, we're able to say that true religion must be to tap into this love, to tap into this wonder at the core and crust of human existence, and to embody it and to bring it forth and to be a conduit for that in the world, instead of this shameful and dehumanizing chaos. Maybe on some level to aim to be as Jesus of Nazareth, right? Slathered in the conscious establishment of living in the Spirit, of a spirit rooting, a spiritual anchoring, even in all this coincidental and chaotic and causational reality, right? Because just as improvement compounds over generations and seasons, so does complication, right? That again, like I said, the corruption could be on autopilot, engineered against certain people in certain places in certain ways. Nobody has to actively do anything. The millstone's been churning and grooving so long that it's just going now. But it does take a consciousness to wake up. It does consciousness to stand in front of it, a consciousness to push it back, to slow it down, to maybe get it going in an opposite direction. But that is the work of those who say, I do see the coincidence, I do see the causation, I do see the fraught reality of survival, but somehow in me still says there's something that I should be bringing to the world. And maybe like Jesus of Nazareth, we can get so slathered in that consciousness, so aware and established in the transcendent truths of God and the Spirit, that we can move about in the midst of the chaos as a conduit of love, a conduit of grace, a conduit of the divine and transcendent in the midst of this temporal and chaotic. Maybe we can move as a conduit of love, and maybe we can aim to be like him, that it was so radical and so pure that it took on miraculous dimensions, and so that we were able to bring miraculous love and healing into the world, miraculous encouragement, miraculous presence into this world, simply because we can see it and aspire to embody it and then become a conduit and a channel for it. Now, this becomes useful in the world, not the narrative of being under a curse. Let me tell you what's no use as I bring this to a close. It is no use walking around reading into the signs of the world, signs that God is with us, signs that the universe is on our side, signs that the universe is against us. It's no use to go around and say, here's my lucky time of day. Ooh, 11:11, that's my lucky time. Well, for somebody else, 11:11, oh my God, not 11:11, that's my cursed time. I mean, all these things, that's of no use. Purposing to be a conduit of love, that is use. Purposing to harness this swirling warmth in the middle of this seeming indifferent chaos, purposing to say, I want to establish myself and slather myself in that consciousness so that when I go out to every grocery store, every ball game, every hospital corridor, that I'm bathed in that. Every bus ride, I'm bathed in that. That now is useful religion. But trying to read when the universe is on my side and what I do. Oh my gosh, I just saw the clock. It was 2:22. That's a great thing. 2:22 is a great number. Okay, man, must be God is with me. Oh my gosh, I just saw the clock. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. What have I done wrong, Lord? I mean, whatever those crazy things. Well, Pastor Mike, what about prayer? I mean, are you saying we shouldn't pray? Are you saying we should just que sera, sera, or what does they say? Queso, sera, sera. I think prayer is a wise way to resist. I think prayer in all forms, supplications, prayers, giving of thanks, intercessions, prayer in all forms, just some way of acknowledging and admitting that what we do in the natural is never going to be enough, but maybe we can make appeal to something that is beyond us. Prayer in all forms, prayer, supplications, intercessions, giving of thanks. You know the writer of the Christian scriptures. You know that old children's tale, right? How about declarations and believing? Simply speaking, as Jesus of Nazareth taught, saying to the mountain, be removed, or maybe believing. Maybe we can, by some form of dictation that comes from an expression of a dominion of the Spirit, that by some form of dictation, or maybe some form of attraction, working with purpose, that we're dictating and attracting, we're declaring and believing. Maybe we're tapping into the flow of good, this transcendent flow, or maybe we are creating a vacuum that pulls good down. Any form that says, I acknowledge the limitations of my human capacity and I appeal to something that is beyond me, I don't think it can hurt. It's a spiritual form of exercising the dominion that we exercise. We do take the medicine. We do take the walk. We do eat less junk food. But we also pray and thank God for our food. Someone said, well, you're going to pick one or the other? I don't know. Why does it always have to be one or the other? Why can't it be both? So you take an aspirin? Sure. Do you pray over the aspirin? Yes. Lord, I thank you that this ministers health to my body and that it doesn't harm or defile me. Well, that's just ridiculous. No, it's acknowledging the limitation of the medicine and appealing to something higher. I don't think the higher exists. I'll give you that. You look around, it just depends on how you look at the blinds. Maybe there's no higher here at all. But I look at the blinds, look at them from this angle, and I say, my God, the whole world is screwed up. But when I just tilt them this way, I said, no, there's something good at work here, and it's that good that I'm tapping into. And so sometimes prayer is just my acknowledgement that there's a beyond, not just out there, but there's a beyond inside me. It's a spiritual form of exercising dominion, doing what we can in the natural, admitting the limitations of the natural by appealing to something super. This also is intrinsically human. I'll end by telling you the same thing I tell Kenobi. He still blames himself all these years later for my mom's passing, which is really silly, but that's just the way he is. He's a sweetheart. My mom, Connie and the kids were out of town. My mom was insistent. I had lunch with her and my dad. She was insistent on getting us this dog. You got to get a dog. You got to get a dog. I don't know if Connie's ready. But this is late August, and we had promised Olivia she would have a dog by the time she was 13. She had like 3 weeks left to be in 13. Then she was going to be 14, and then we were going to be in breach of contract, which, I didn't want her to rage out and just go nuts. And so... So my mom got us a dog last week of August, and she picked up the dog up in North Georgia, and they bonded, and the dog scratched her up with his nails, and he peed on her in the car, but she just loved him, and da-da-da, and she was the one that presented him, and he fell in love with her. He was like, oh my gosh, are you my forever person? And he was just so excited, and he came, and then she came over a couple weeks later, and she brought him or a couple days later, she brought him a little toy, and then the next week later, she went to the hospital, and she had been in treatment, and things had been going well, but when she went to the hospital, it was not going well, and everything took a turn, and that was like a week or so after we got Kenobi, and then a couple of months after that, she was gone, and Kenobi never saw her again. And from that time, he's carried this feeling. He says, it's me. I messed everything up. That lady the experimental medicine was working well for that nice lady, and then I showed up, and all the medicine stopped working, and that nice lady died. I said, Kenobi, it wasn't you. You came right on time, not as a coincidental cause of a problem in some place you couldn't control, but as a divinely timed light for us in a dark hour. You know what that is? That's narrative. He says, are you sure, Dad? I said, I'm sure. He said, yeah, but her medicine was working until she got me. But look at that. A week after she got me, tell me. That's not coincidence. That's me. I was the runt of my litter. I'm the smallest one. Look at my nose. It never even got full color. It's still pink like a puppy, Dad. It's me. I've just been like this. I've been cursed with births. It's just a curse. This is me, Dad. I said, it's not you. Really, she went on, and she was already a miracle 4 years after living something that should have taken her out in 6 months. She was already a miracle. And guess what? You were a miracle, because you remember when I came home from the hospital, huh? When she passed away, and I took Pop up home, and I got him settled, and then I came home, and everybody was upstairs in bed, and I walked in that door. What did you do? He said, I met you at the door. And then what did you do? I ran to you. And then what did you do? I just whimpered because I knew something was wrong. Yeah, look at that. You were not a curse, right? You're not cursed. You were a divinely timed light in our lives. And so I say to you, you are not a Judas, you are not a Jonah. You are important, you are special, you are a bringer of good into this world, you're special to me. Well, Pam, I don't know about that. I feel like what you said the other week, some people make a mark, some people leave a stain. I think I'm one of those stain people. No. Well, it seems like everywhere I go, I mess things up and I hurt people. Well, let's talk about that. Let's figure out how to look into some of that human frailty and some of that mistake prone and error prone and some of that. And let's talk about what can we do in the middle of this chaotic, coincidental world? What can we do to tap into some of that divine love and to make your next decade not like your last decade? Maybe we do what we can do in the natural. Maybe we can do what we do in the spiritual. Maybe we take our limited foresight and our limited hindsight and combine them together and maybe merge something together so it might not be a cure-all, but my God, decade over decade, maybe you bring a little more love and peace into the universe than you brought into chaos. It's about waking up better tomorrow than you woke up today. See, we're trying to talk about your funeral. But we can't get to talking about your funeral. We talk about your supernatural story, and maybe that supernatural story is starting right now. And I'm telling you what it's going to do right now is it's going to start with you repenting and coming out of false religion. Say, right now, I am divorcing the idea that God's going to punish everybody except those that believe in the right thing. I'm getting out of that idea, and I'm stepping into true religion. I'm stepping into this love at the core and the crust of human existence, and I'm going to say, okay, God, I want to be that conduit of light. I want to be like Jesus of Nazareth, a man or a woman so full of love, so established and slathered in spirit reality that I go about and I bring about good and I bring about healing. 11:21 a.m., that's my sign. But we'll have to pick up with that next week. Listen, I hope you heard me today. I'm trying to pour life and to push back on that narrative that we get from this false conditionalized religion. But we will get into some more next week. Okay, so let's talk about it. If we have been a blessing to you, I encourage you, I thank you, I plead with you, I pray with you. Be a blessing to us. If we show up here week in, week out, and somebody say, well, I don't give every week. Well, you give generously once a month, and I thank you. I will say this. Everybody has a different season where they are in life. For some people, $5 might as well be $500. For some people, $500 is what they drop. They're like a kid sensation. They drop a 20 and don't even miss it, right? But wherever you are, at the measure that this is being a blessing to you, we thank you that you are a blessing to us. It means something. It's a reciprocal that we are pouring out. And if you say, my God, this is hitting me, just think of us. Consider us. Your support adds value. It creates value. And I thank you and I bless you. And some of you are so sweet. You send in $2, you send in $5 once a month, once every month. It means so much. Some of you are so sweet. You say, man, I'm in a blessed place. I'm a blessed person, and you're blessing me, and I want to be a blessing. We thank you. What matters is not that everybody who watches supports, but that everybody who watches and finds this a blessing, that it matters that you support. It matters that you say, I'm getting something, and I do want to give back, because that is a fit and proper and right thing. And may you find the wind at your back. Amen. Beyond that, our church, we don't have doors in a steeple. We don't have building funds and pledge drives. And what am I supposed to do with all my volunteer hours? What am I supposed to do with all my this and that? I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go out and put all that religious energy that we put into the conditional thing and go about as that spirit-slathered conduit of good in the world. What? Man, I'd give you $40,000. If you could give me a write-off, I'd give you $40,000. You just can't. I'll tell you what, give us $4,000. And then take the $36,000, go find a write-offable charity and go be a blessing to them, because I know you can push back. There are so many people hurting and suffering in children's hospitals and women's shelters, and people that are dealing with immigration issues and trying to find loved ones, and people that have been struck by tragedies and man, you're trying to help some people that have just gone. There's so many tornadoes. There's so many trees that have fallen. There's so much of a place that you can be a blessing to. Don't let the write-off hold you back. If you need a write-off, your tax man says you need a write-off, your accountant lady says you need a write-off, you go out and get your write-off. But don't withhold being a blessing to us, and don't withhold being embodied to love in the world because of what the tax dictation says. Well, I just wish this was a real 501c3 because I'd really bless it. Well, go out and be a blessing to everywhere else. You got long money, go out and be a long money blessing. I don't really have long money, Pastor Mike, but I sure do get something out of what you say, and I support you, but I'm trying to find something to do with my building funds and my tithes, and I'm trying to find something to do with it. There is suffering out there that you can ease. Some places you can alleviate. Put money on someone's books. Help somebody going through. Help somebody at school. Help somebody on your job. It can even be anonymous. Put you $1,000, $10, $100 bills, so-and-so. Put it so-and-so. Have so-and-so take it to so-and-so. Nobody even knows but you and God and us that you are out there as a member of the church of living as Jesus of Nazareth, going about doing good and bringing healing. Amen. I speak peace, health, protection, preservation, soundness. I push back. I declare. I believe. I dictate and I create a vacuum. I put all faith in the super that I can as we exercise the natural. And I call you blessed and at peace. May light arise in the darkness. The angels minister to you and for you. May you be above only and walk on the high places of the earth. May peace be in, on, and around you and yours. And may God perfect everything that concerns you. You are not cursed. Your life is not cursed. You are not under a curse. You are a conduit of love in the middle of this world. You're a miracle, and I acknowledge that. And I bless you, and publicly I bless God for your life. I bless God that you are here because you are a blessing. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, make it great. That's it. I told you I wouldn't get very far today, but you got to get to B. B is huge. C is huge. Somebody say, Pastor, I don't have to get it. You're the one who's got to get it. It's me. It's me. It's me, isn't it? God bless you. Make it great. TCO 50 is in the books. See you next week.